Welcome to our video training session with our guest trainer, Ava Smith. This session is the 6th training session that we have on diversity training for ministry, for churches. And Ava, of course, is a seasoned professional as a human resource professional, and she started her own company in 2005 to provide diversity training for companies and for churches, for nonprofits. And so, Ava, we're so glad to have you on board. Please take the time, the training session, and help our pastors and ministry leaders work with their cultural awareness.
Thanks, Marshall. A lot of times when I'm meeting with organizations, they tend to beat themselves up, and because they feel bad that they don't really understand diversity or even know where they are with diversity. And I remind them that what we're talking about, in essence, is cultural awareness, and we'll define what that is shortly. But basically, cultural awareness is a situation in which you don't know what you don't know. So let's talk about that. Our session objectives for today is that we'll learn about the stages of cultural awareness, and I'll tell you how you can assess where your ministry may be in terms of cultural awareness, and hopefully that'll be a good starting point for you. So what is cultural awareness? It is the ability to examine and appreciate differences without judgment or the expectation of assimilation. It often results from repeated exposure to people of quote-unquote other cultures. One thing that I really stress when I talk about the definition of cultural awareness is that when you look at these differences and you try to embrace them or understand them, the key phrase here is that this is done without judgment. So there are different stages of awareness. The first stage is just total unawareness. There's no prior thought given to differences, no prior thought given to your attitudes or your beliefs. Sometimes this can happen because people have been a part of a certain geographical area and that's all they know in all their life. They have not traveled outside of county lines. It sounds extreme, but I have found myself in situations where people were just totally unaware about the fact that there are other cultures outside of themselves and what that looks like. Then there's a stage called beginning awareness, and that's when people start to understand, hey, there's some difference out there. I'm beginning to be aware that this world isn't made up of people that are just like me, or the way that my household is run, or my environment was. I'm listening to this other person, and it sounds like they're from a totally different world. And sometimes it does prompt feelings of discomfort, and you begin to question your prior assumptions. Geez, was I wrong, or where are these feelings coming from? And it can be a little bit of discomfort, and it's up to you, again, we're talking about without judgment, to decide whether or not you want to move on to the next stage, which happens to be conscious awareness. So that's when you finally accept that, okay, there is a difference between cultures. I acknowledge that this is providing a little bit of discomfort for me, but I want to work through that discomfort, and I want to start learning. Whether I like what I learn or whether I don't, I just simply want to make a conscious effort to understand. On a lighter note, it can be things like going to different festivals and learning about different cultures, attending cultural events in your community, visiting other churches that are culturally different, whatever that looks like for you, because again, it's without judgment. It just simply means that you're making a conscious effort to work through your discomfort and try to learn. The next stage is consolidated awareness, and this is where you commit to making changes to beliefs and behaviors. And what I see in terms of ministries is, once they get past that conscious awareness stage, and the members and leaders and the pastor, because everybody has to, buy into this, there's a special effort that says we are going to make sure that in every fiber of what we do, that we commit to making changes. We're going to be more inclusive. We're going to address behaviors that, drive away certain cultures, and so on and so forth. So that represents the consolidated awareness. There is no cookie-cutter way of doing that. There is no right or wrong way of doing that, because each ministry is different. And again, any change or any stage at this point is without judgment. Transcendent awareness, this is when multicultural awareness becomes a way of life. And I tease a lot of people and say Mother Teresa and Gandhi would certainly, fit in this category. It's not to say that you have to, be at that particular level, but simply I just wanted you to understand what this definition means. So this is basically a continuum, and you can use it to see where you are as a person in terms of the stages or awareness. You could actually plot your ministry on this continuum and see where you are when it comes to cultural awareness. And once you find where you are, again, the only thing that you have to decide at that point is whether or not you feel comfortable or whether or not you want to move to the next level. It is not a must. And again, whatever you decide, it is without judgment. There are benefits of cultural awareness. One is that you'll have improved group problem solving of complex issues. Sometimes there are complex issues that a church has to work through, and if you have a group of people that are culturally aware, then they can anticipate how your ministry might be received, what are some do's and don'ts in terms of cultural norms, and so on and so forth. You will have improved member participation because, again, when we think about cultural differences, it does not always tie to ethnicity. Culture is just the norm that people are used to within an environment. And so when you talk about cultural awareness, your members, although your church may look predominantly one way or the other, each member has been used to a certain culture. But when you become more aware of it and it's addressed in your ministry, your members become more involved and more engaged. This will improve your ability to find and keep members. It will also give you improved advancement, development, mentoring, and role modeling for all members. We did a generational diversity session in this series, and we talked about the variety of generations and what their needs were. And there are some groups that want to advance, they want to be developed, they're willing to be mentors. So all of these things still speak to the culture of your church and the culture that your members represent. And when you improve the awareness, then you will improve all of these things. Naturally, it's going to increase inclusion and a sense of belonging. And again, that's whether you're talking about ethnic groups or not. Just that sense of my ministry is doing what it can to, widen this continuum and widen our understanding and be more inclusive. You will definitely reap the benefits of that. You'll have a greater ability to leverage the full potential of your leadership and be more flexible and adaptable and innovative as a group. And this is very important. When you look at my slogan, this basically kind of sums it up, that diverse perspectives ensure success. It is actually better for you to have a variety of people that have different cultural backgrounds, different norms, and different perspectives. Because when you hash all of that out, at the end of the day, you will find yourself more innovative because the goal of the group is to find the best solution possible based on all the recommendations of the people that are sitting at the table. So the key to success in doing this is to make sure that you prepare for the demographic changes. We talked about the census in one of our sessions, and those changes in our demographics, being the U.S., will certainly provide an opportunity for you to have demographic changes within your ministry. Of course, with those changes in people come the changes in cultural awareness, and so if you're prepared, you'll be successful if this is part of your goal. Of course, when you talk about culture, you want to make sure that yours is full of respect and awareness and inclusion, not just tolerance. I don't like the word tolerance when we discuss diversity and inclusion because it sounds to me like you're just gritting your teeth to handle it. Inclusion just feels and sounds more like it's something that you want to do. Each person in your ministry, from the pastor to the leaders to your members, if each person personally takes the responsibility for appearing to be welcoming and understanding and attempting to know people that are different from you, it will impact your ministry as a whole because obviously there's strength in numbers. We want to make sure that we refrain from making assumptions about similarities and differences. When you're dealing with cultural awareness, depending on where you are on the continuum, you may make assumptions that lead you down the wrong path in terms of changing your ministry or opening up opportunities. And then unfortunately, if you make assumptions, there are opportunities that you can make terrible mistakes that are out in the open that might require you to do some damage control and handle hurt feelings. So refrain from making assumptions while you are working through this continuum. I would encourage you to listen closely to the other sessions so that you're more well-rounded in your understanding about cultural awareness and how you can approach it within your church. And I want you to remember that diversity is not about counting people. It's not about how many visible minorities do we have, how many women can we tell, how many this, that, or the other. Diversity is not about counting people. It's about counting people in, and there's a huge difference. I thank you for listening to that particular session. If you have any questions, please forward those to Marshall, and if you want to reach me directly, my contact information is on the screen.
Ava, thank you so much for this training session, and I trust that you folks have taken good notes. If you have questions, you can put right in the comment section, and Ava will get back to you. And we're so thankful that the Lord allowed our pathway to cross with Ava's, where she could provide the diversity training for our churches and ministries, and we trust the Lord will greatly use it. Thank you so much, Ava.